Hi everyone. Thank you so much for being with me today. My name is Emily Vikre, and I am the author of this book, Camp Cocktails, Easy, Fun, and Delicious Drinks for the Great Outdoors. And so today I wanted to give you a little bit of background about the book, why I wrote it, what is in it, and then we will make some cocktails. So I live in Duluth, Minnesota, which is in northern Minnesota along the edge of Lake Superior, the largest lake in the world, largest body of fresh water in the world, and grew up spending lots of time out of doors in the Great Out Woods. Being in nature and camping and getting out is really infused into who I am and what I do. And I used to live on the East Coast for a while and studied food and nutrition and was a food writer. And then my husband and I decided to move back here to Duluth. I grew up here, and we decided to move back here to Duluth to start a craft distillery, make spirits and cocktails that are inspired by flavors of the North Woods and the nature and people of this area. So this book really fuses those passions, the spirits, the creative cocktails, and getting outside, and highlights easy, fun, and delicious recipes that people can make out of doors, whether you are backpacking, canoeing, car camping, at the cabin, at your summer cottage, or just hanging out on your back porch. It really focuses on techniques that you can use for transporting things with you, and tips for how you can craft cocktails in the outdoors by hacking shakers with Nalgene bottles and stirs with your camp fork, and how to pack ice or make toddies if you don't have ice. The book is divided up into 4 main sections. The first is before you go, all those tips about packing, what you need to know about cocktails to be able to make a great cocktail. The second portion is all about cocktails that you can make when you are camping just out of a backpack, so kind of real camping. And there are both easy to make cocktails with things that you're probably carrying with you already, like here are the best things for spiking your hot cocoa with, here's the best spirits for spiking your lemonade with. And there's also a whole section on making flask cocktails, which is one of the easiest way to carry a really delicious, balanced cocktail with you when you are packing out of a backpack. After that, there is a chapter on recipes for car camping, when you can carry a cooler with you and make some more fun things at different times of day. And there's everything from streamlined classics to creative beer cocktails to a lot of great hot toddies for having by the campfire. Then there's a section for glamping or being at your cabin. And these cocktails are more creative cocktails that celebrate the flavors of campfires and grilling and the north and the woods, and really celebrate that spirit of getting away and centering yourself and being present and having a sensory explosion from being in the woods and nature. And you want to echo that sensory explosion with a really delicious celebratory cocktail. And then the last section is all about bringing some of nature in, and it's about easy things that you can forage and amazing recipes for liqueurs and syrups and bitters and vermouth and shrub that you can make with easy to forage ingredients. And I really focus on forageable things that are pretty widely found and that are also really easy to learn to forage. So it's a great place to start for beginners. Now we're going to make one of the recipes from the foraging chapter of my book. It's a really approachable, really fun, easy, and delicious recipe for dandelion honey. So let's start by going and finding some dandelions.
Dandelions are a great place to start foraging because in many places you can forage for them right in your own backyard. They aren't endangered in any way, so you don't have to feel worried about picking them. They don't really have any poisonous lookalikes. They're easy to recognize, like most of the forageable plants that I focus on in my book. And all parts of the dandelion are edible. So not only can you eat the flowers, you can eat the leaves, and you can also use the root. And In addition to the dandelion honey that we're going to be making, I also have a dandelion root amaro in my book. So we are going to just pick the amount that we need right now. So I'm going to fill the jar right here with some dandelion heads. For this recipe, we just need the heads of the dandelions. So you can pick full dandelions into a basket and then take them off the stems, or you can just pick the heads right into the jar that you want to use if you are foraging at home. The biggest thing is just to make sure that you don't have any little insect passengers, because we don't want any of them to get embalmed in honey. We're going to throw the whole flowers in there, and because I know that this is an area that is not sprayed, I don't worry about washing. But that is something to think about whenever you're foraging, is make sure, especially if you're urban foraging, that you're picking in an area that hasn't been sprayed by chemicals and that is far away from heavy traffic. All right. We have dandelions.
What I like to remind people is that foraging, even though it seems really cool and trendy and very haute cuisine, new Nordic, etc., is that it's really just going and getting food, and the food happens to be from the woods or from your backyard instead of from the supermarket. And so it's a great way of really connecting back to nature and how nature provides us with so much. And in the book, I try to really focus on things to forage that are easy to find and easy to identify to make foraging fun and safe. And it's a great place to start. So here we have our jar full of dandelions, and this recipe is so easy. All you have to do is take your dandelions and cover them with some good quality honey. I have some really nice raw wildflower honey here from a local honey maker, and I honestly don't even usually measure, but I would guess for about a cup of dandelions, I wind up covering it up with about 3/4 cup of honey. So we're just going to pour it in there until it gets covered. Dun, da, da, da. And then I'm going to cover that and let it infuse for several weeks, months. Honey will keep indefinitely, so you can let it sit. The longer it sits, the more flavor it will get. But within a couple of weeks, you'll have some nice light floral, almost reminds me of lemon verbena flavor. So here we have some dandelion honey that has been sitting for a while. You'll see the dandelions have all shriveled up, and we have a really lovely flavor in there. And let me get my spoon. We're going to use this honey to make a wonderful classic cocktail that features honey called the bee's knees. But you don't have to limit your use of dandelion honey to bee's knees. It's also great in tea. It's really delicious drizzled on oatmeal or stirred into warm milk. Any place that you would use honey, this is just an extra floral honey. To make up our cocktail, I'm going to start by using some of this infused honey to make a rich syrup. And while a simple syrup is equal parts of your sugar, your honey, and water, a rich syrup has 2 parts of sugar or honey to water. So in here I've got a tablespoon of warm water. And I'm just going to take 2 tablespoons of this honey. I'm going to try to leave the dandelions out for the purposes of the cocktail. But you certainly can eat them. It's no problem. My older son loves to just pick dandelion heads and eat them. He also loves to just pick spruce tips and eat them. Spruce tips are another delicious, easy to forage ingredient. And I'm going to stir these until they're totally combined. To make our cocktail, I'm going to get my cocktail shaker because this is a shaken cocktail. It has some lemon in it. And I'm going to start with I'm going to start by measuring 2 ounces of a nice London dry style gin. A London dry style gin just means that it's juniper forward and doesn't have any sugar, as opposed to another type of gin called an Old Tom style gin. So I'm going to use 2 ounces. I love these Japanese style jiggers that have, they have little measurements inside of them so I can see how much I'm actually measuring. And they also tuck really nicely into a backpack or anything else that you're using for carrying things while you're camping. And I'm going to use 3/4 of an ounce of this honey syrup. Whoops, splashed. I'm just going to do this. It's easier. 3/4 of an ounce of honey syrup. Oh, it smells good already. And then I'm going to get 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. I'm going to show you how I like to squeeze citrus by hand, which is also a useful thing while you're camping because I usually just throw citrus into my pack or into my cooler whole because it keeps really well. Then to squeeze it by hand, pull it around so that you're getting it soft so that it's easier to squeeze. Then I cut it into half and then into quarters, so half again. Remove any little seeds so you're not squeezing them into your cocktail if you can avoid it. And normally I might try to squeeze into some other little container, but I'm going to squeeze it direct into my jigger. And so I just take these quarters and they're now easy to squeeze with my fingers. I'm going to get 3/4 of an ounce of lemon. So 2 ounces of gin, 3/4 of an ounce of that rich honey syrup, and then 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lemon juice. Need a little bit more. Whoa! Allow me to almost spill everywhere. There we go. Spilling everywhere because I was making this. I'm going to add that in. So now I have all my ingredients in here. I'm going to grab a cup, and since we're making our forage cocktails at home and not on trail, I'm going to choose a fancy cup. I'm going to fill this side of my shaker about half full with ice. You don't have to have a cocktail shaker to shake cocktails. You really can use anything that you can close and shake liquid and ice around in. A jar, an Nalgene again, a water bottle, a thermos can all be used for shaker as long as you have a way of pouring what you're shaking out while holding the ice back. So I often just use a mason jar, shake in that, then take off the lid and crack the little flat part of the lid and pour out of that. But today I'm using my actual cocktail shaker. I'm putting the ice into this side. Then in a swift motion, I'm gonna put that on, give it a couple of taps to get it into place, lift it up over my right shoulder, and shake it hard in a kind of elliptical motion for about 10 to 15 seconds. That gets all of the ingredients really nicely integrated. It makes the cocktail kind of aerated and gives it a beautiful texture for drinking. And it also dilutes it so that it's smoother. I'm gonna hit the side of the shaker so the top will come off. And pour from this larger side with my strainer. And there we go. A gorgeous, perfect for spring and summer dandelion bees knees. Really great intro to foraging and to classic cocktails. And I always say that there is something about a perfectly balanced cocktail that mirrors the perfect, elegant balance that is in nature. And if you're out in nature enjoying the beauty of Earth, it's a shame to take something so celebratory and wonderful and only celebrate it with a mediocre cocktail. So may as well make great cocktails while you're outside. Cheers.